Hello, everybody. It's Jenny, and I'm coming to you with an update on my round 2 HCG journey, modified journey, as well as any information I gather on general weight loss and why it's so difficult, especially for women, certainly for women of a certain age. If you're young and watching this, just know it gets harder and harder and harder the older you get. Somebody told me once when I was in my late 30s, make sure you lose all the weight you want to lose because once you hit 40, you're never going to be able to lose it again. It was a scary thought. I was like, what? Really? Huh? And I didn't hit like my ultimate goal weight before I hit 40, and I was like, ah. But we have learned that that is not true. However, it does become more difficult. All right, so let's do numbers first. Now, I said yesterday I didn't really know what my numbers were because it had looked like I had gone up the day before and then gone up again. And I didn't eat that poorly. I'm trying to think if I ate the same as I always had in the past. My cats are playing. I don't know if you could hear that. I ate the same as I always had in the past. Um, but I had 2 wraps, and sometimes I only have one, but I still don't think that the caloric intake was that high, so it really was a little confusing to me, but I stuck with the plan. I didn't have bowel movements those days, but that's not uncommon. I did like a day before, so usually on HCG I could go a whole week without one, so that didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. I could not figure it out for the life of myself. So yesterday, as I was going about my day in that too, I had to slip on some sandals to run out to the mailbox, and I looked at my feet when I put the sandals on, and I'm like, ooh, my feet are no longer bloated. I have my normal feet back. And that is a result of getting all the salt out of my system from eating in the Amish country, as well as the carbs that I put in my body that it's not used to, because our bodies do retain water when we eat carbs. So, being that I've been on P2 essentially carb free, I mean, less carbs than really what Ad- Atkins. Oh, wow, what am I thinking of? Talk about a blast from the past, Atkins diet. Um, Simeon's the procreator of this protocol, um, he allows an apple or two a day. So I don't do the apple. I keep the sugars out completely, and I keep the sugars out to the best of my ability, and I keep the carbs as low as I can. So I definitely don't have 20 some carbs in a day. All right. So I found those 2 days odd, and I just thought, all right, we'll see what the next day looks like because I just didn't trust the numbers. And yesterday, my scale was doing something funny where all of a sudden it said I had gained a little that day, and then a little bit later I went on the scale again, and then it said, oh no, your weight is the same as it was the day before. You lost some weight, and so you balanced out from that point 3 you gained. And then I went back on the scale, and it said I gained again. So one would think you have to go with the best out of 3, but I didn't. I went with the lower one because my instinct was I'm doing the right thing, and I know that even if this truly is a stall, I'm going to kickstart it. It was frustrating to think I could have a stall in my first week on the diet because that was day number 7, 6, and 7 on the diet. Um, but then I thought, well, maybe because I just did 30 days 1 month prior and took 1 month off, that my body still feels like it's in that dieting mode where it wants to plateau. I don't know. This is all the stuff that was going on in my head as I was trying to figure out what's going on. Well, I get on the scale today and it says I lost. No, okay, so let's just say yesterday I went with the lower number of the two. As opposed to it saying that I gained a half a pound, I went with the one that said I lost zero point 0.3 pounds. So this was a 0.8 pound difference between the two, which is significant, especially on a diet where every day we just celebrate, even if we lose zero point 0.1, it's a loss, right? Um, so today I get on the scale and I lost weight, and it says that I lost 1.5 pounds. So go figure. I'm starting to really think that there's something wrong with my scale. So, as I mentioned before, I might be doing a deep dive into what are great scales. And actually, if you have a scale that you really love, let me know about it. I've looked into the scales also briefly, that like also look into how much the content of your fat and your BMI and all this other stuff that's in them, and they really didn't have really good, reliable reviews. So I think I don't care about that. I think I just want a reliable weight scale, one with a digital thing, and I don't need it to connect to my Fitbit and tell me everything else, my BMI and my heart rate and everything else. I just want a good, reliable scale. And I felt like this always was one until like these past couple days. So I don't know what's going on. I have been moving it around a lot, and I know that's not good for scales because I do these weigh-ins um, for the diet bet program that I'm on. And I have to do that in a mirror, so I have to shift the scale to look into a mirror and then put it back where I normally weigh in. So um, maybe all of that moving back and forth on a tile floor and like kind of the bumping that it goes through has jarred it enough that the calibration is off. That's what I'm starting to think, that I'm going to need to get another scale. All right. Nevertheless, I'm celebrating the fact that I lost 1.5, which would even out over the past 3 days of minus zero point 0.5, minus zero point 0.5, minus zero point 0.5, which would still be really, really good. And I ate great yesterday. Like, I can't tell you how many times I was going to go get something else, and I just thought, no, I said I wasn't going to. I said I was going to be good today, and I said I was going to see what the scale reflected because of that. And I'm not going to let myself have extra calories or an extra fat or another carb or anything that is going to affect the scale. And sure enough, um, what I had was just one of those chicken wraps and the tortillas, which I've talked about numerous times. I had a lot more tomatoes on it last time because I kind of wanted it to taste more like there was some salsa on it because I didn't have any salsa in the house. Anyway, good news. I'm happy about that. I'm feeling very kind of subdued today. You probably can't tell. I'm trying to fake it and put it here. I'm doing this video. I haven't taught a class yet. I got up a half hour early because I didn't have classes booked today. We were supposed to go to Cedar Point, and my daughter ended up having to work, so I only had one class booked today because they don't book last minute. They book 2 weeks out in advance. So I thought, well, I'll get up an extra half hour early and do the video before my class, but I think my body's not used to being on too soon. Or if I do, there's a student there interacting with me in a curriculum that I'm doing, so I'm forced into a little bit more upbeatness. So I apologize if I see a little flat today. Okay, so we talked about the 7 reasons why we hate wasting food. And I am definitely a person who hates wasting food. And I think, if I recall correctly from yesterday, I identified with all 7 of the reasons why people hate wasting food. I'm going to read more of the subtext, if you will, below each title today that Carrie Dahlgren has in her vlog, just to see if it's something that you can relate to and know that you're not alone. 1, I'm going to be able to relate with you. And 2, somebody took the time to write this in a blog. 7 reasons why we do this. And so clearly it's an issue for multiple people out there. So if you're with me, we're not alone. All right, the number 1 reason that we started off with was you're afraid of wasting flavor or an experience. Whenever you feel blocks about wasting flavor or that leftovers won't be as good as, you should equate this to hedonic eating. Go back to previous videos. We talk about hedonic eating when I first started talking about this whole psychological factors. Unlike other forms of compulsive eating, which stem from the desire to numb our emotions, hedonic eating is different. It stems from the desire to gain pleasure, not numb negativity. And when we are in the grips of hedonic eating, we aren't willing to sacrifice flavor by taking something to go. So we end up overeating and feeling like it's because we're afraid of wasting food. But it wasn't really about wasting food at all. It was about the desire for pleasure and joy. Which brings me to the solution. To stop hedonic eating, you need to make sure there's joy elsewhere in your life. Otherwise, you'll remain stuck in this cycle. Sorry. I keep thinking people are walking in the room because the cats are playing near the door, so the door keeps rattling. All right, so that's all that she has on You're Afraid of Wasting Flavor and Experience. And it is true that there are certain foods that are not as good reheated. Any kind of ground beef does not taste as good reheated. I don't know why, but if I make really any kind of beef, now that I think about it, well, that's okay. Normally, I think any kind of beef. If I were to have a steak and I try to heat it up the next day, if it was cooked the day before, doesn't taste nearly as good. If I had a hamburger and we had extra hamburgers and people didn't eat it, I put it in the refrigerator, warm it up the next day, doesn't taste as good. The one exception to this is I have roast beef left over from my trip down in the Amish country, just, which just melts in your mouth. It just falls apart. This roast beef was delicious. It's basically a container full of shredded roast beef. And when I reheat that, oh baby, it's really good. I did it when I first got back and kind of those load days, but I haven't done it since. And every now and then I'm like, oh, I could have that on a wrap for something different. And then I think, oh, the calories and fat that are probably in that are not worth it, even though it is good stuff. Okay, number 2. You're eating in advance in an attempt to be economical. Okay, economics plays a big role with me for some reason. I think it's a big part of the fact that I was raised that way for 24 years living in my parents' house before I went off and got married and lived on my own. And then I married somebody who's extremely frugal and economical. And in everything he does is always talking about ways to save money and, oh, well, we can cut corners here and don't need to have that because of the price. Not a big fan of like spoiling himself at all. And thus that trickles down to the rest of the family where, why do we need that? Okay, it says, sometimes we avoid wasting food by overeating because of poor logic. We know we'll be hungry later, so instead of wasting food or taking it to go, we just eat in advance. But if we overeat now, then it means that we need to undereat later if we want balance. But excuse me, but undereating has consequences of its own. Restrictions always lead to binges. And we don't want to be using logic to eat anyways. The best way to stop overeating and achieve your natural weight is to listen to your body, not to your brain. I think that's a really good thing to marinate on and take a look at it and review again. I really, really like this. The in attempt to be economical, I don't completely understand, but the next one talks about you feel like you're wasting money, and I think that's really falls more into the economics of what I was talking about before. So I'm sorry, I read through all of these quickly a couple days ago, so I had forgotten where the money thing comes in. I saw the word economical and I thought we were talking about money. This is more I'm going to eat more now to save up because I'm not going to eat as much later on. And I find interesting, which makes sense, if you're going to be eating more now, if you're eating double at lunch in terms of calories, then if you're on a weight loss journey, you can't just not eat dinner, but you're going to kind of have to not eat breakfast too if you're a breakfast, lunch, and dinner eater. Does that make sense? You have to go to a deficit at some point. So that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. I like that. I like that. That's something that I'm going to remember the next time I'm like, well, we're not eating later, so I'm going to eat. I'm going to be like, I have to eat a little bit more now if I'm going to eat more now, knowing I'm not going to eat for the next 8 hours or whatever, and I'm going to be active and busy and up and about, as opposed to kind of hanging around the house and doing intermittent fasting or something. Okay. Hmm. Interesting. Um, I like how she also points out that the best way to stop overeating is to listen to our bodies and not listen to our brains, because our brains have been controlled and taught over the years that we need to eat 3 times a day with 2 snacks in between, sometimes 3 snacks. Need to keep your metabolism up. Eat, eat, eat. Keep that metabolism up and going. And the most recent research and studies is showing that that is not true, and that there are huge benefits to intermittent fasting and going long periods of time without eating. So, and what those benefits are really that your body's put into a position where it doesn't stop metabolizing food. Instead, it goes to your fat reserves. So, well, we just learn so much more over time, don't we? All right. So, the best way to stop overeating and achieve your natural weight. I would love to have an analysis of a dietitian or a doctor to look at me and say what my natural weight should be. I don't even know anymore. I would imagine it's probably about 20 pounds less than what I am right now. And I am trying to lose about 15 pounds, so, and that would make me very happy. That will put me into a place that I haven't really been for a very long time. And I did maintain that weight for a few years when I was really physically active about a decade ago. Um, but since then, it's just been all terrible. All right. I hope this was beneficial in some way to you. I feel like I did a little bit of rambling today, um, and I feel a little out of it. I don't think I'll ever do a video again when I first wake up in the morning. All right. Any questions? Put them down below. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll keep making videos. I suppose if people stop liking and subscribing, just stop making videos on the channel or shut it down, get rid of it or something. But I find it beneficial to me. I will say, it helped me yesterday. I kept telling myself, I said I was going to get back on the next day and eat really well. So I guess it does benefit me in a little bit. But I'm not going to keep doing it if nobody watches. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And thank you for liking, because that'll help more people find the channel, and hopefully it'll benefit them as well. You take care. Have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow.